Hi, everybody. And Sally from Heart and Soul Connected. Nice to see you. Thank you for again being with me. These are pre-recorded and they usually run between 12 to 15 to 17 minutes each. And some of them are more humanities based and some of them are spiritual based or religious slash informational based. But I enjoy doing these and I love introducing you to people that you may never have heard of in history. And so it's my pleasure today. Today, I'd like to talk about Hypatia of Egypt. She was an ancient Greek mathematician, an astronomer, a philosopher, and she had a lot of achievements. She had a lot of contributions to science and math. And she also was one of the most influential women in history. And so I wanted to let you know about her because she's very cool. And how she was treated wasn't. So I just want to let you know that. So in the bustling city of Alexandria, Egypt, during a time of great turmoil and transformation, there was a woman whose intellect and influence would leave a lasting mark on history. And if you didn't study world history, but only American history or only the history of your country, if you're watching for another country, you may not have heard of her. She echoes through the corridors of time, however, and her contributions were groundbreaking, especially in the time period she lived and in the contributions that she made. There weren't very many people at that time that even listened to women. And at this time, she lived during the time of Socrates and Plato and so on, who are otherwise very fascinating people. But Hypatia was a woman, and she also was around during one of the first libraries of Alexandria, Egypt, and had written work and beautiful writing that chronicled her findings and so on. So she just was a real fascinating lady. She faced significant challenges as a woman in the male-dominated society, as you could well imagine. And I want you to know that there is a wonderful movie that was made several years ago called Agora, Agora. And it's not exactly the same, but there's a flavor of it. The Agora is the marketplace. And there's a lot of people that milled around the marketplace and people were coming and going all the time. And you can get the flavor of perhaps something similar to the way that Hypatia lived. The societal norms were not kind to any women who sought knowledge and wanted to share it. It was hard enough for them to listen to the men. In fact, that's why Socrates ended up committing suicide, because he was corrupting the minds of the young boys by teaching them to think for themselves and to, listen to philosophy and question and have a Socratic dialogue and learn about things that were important. So I just think it's important also to say that education pretty much has always been cursed in some way or another by people who are afraid of those who are smart or question things. This is not something new. In Alexandria, the city was a melting pot of cultures, religions, and ideas, but tensions were running high. At the time, a growing Christian community was being established, and they were fighting against the current pagan traditions. And so they were at odds with each other at this particular period of time. And pagan to them included the philosophers. It wasn't just, let's say, those who practiced pagan rites. And this created a volatile environment for the people that were living there. The Christians would attack the pagans would attack the Christians. I mean, this was going on and on and on. And this created problems, and that's why the fires at the library were always one or the other. The Christians didn't want any philosophy in the libraries. The pagans didn't want any Christian philosophy, doctrine in the library. I mean, we're dealing with a push-pull here of a lot of things that they come together in a confluence of an issue that's a problem. Despite these changes, Hypatia's reputation as a wise and knowledgeable teacher attracted very many people from all walks of life. And in that story, the movie The Agora, you did see a woman who does similar work in astronomy and so forth. And it's just a real good ability to watch something like that. So Hypatia's teachings were not yet confined to the classroom, because she was a public figure known for her wisdom and fairness. This made her a target for criticism and resentment from various factions, not just one, but both or more. As a prominent figure in Alexandria, her relationships with influential people of her time were a blessing and a curse. On the other hand, they amplified her voice and expanded her influence on the other, and they made her a focal point for political and religious tensions. Because why not? Why not make a woman a focal point? Why are women demonized? Because it's a much easier target, especially because there weren't that many women that were as influential as a public figure, and that were also brilliant in their own right. The tensions in Alexandria eventually boiled over, leading to tragic consequences for Hypatia. Her death was a shocking event that sent ripples through the ancient world. The specifics of her demise are debated, but its impact is well documented. Their brutal end to her life was not only shocked her contemporaries, but left a stain on the reputation of Alexandria. The circumstances surrounding her death were undoubtedly influenced by the religious and political upheavals of the time. The shift towards Christianity and the decline of paganism created an environment where scholars like Hypatia were seen as symbols of the older order, and they were vulnerable. Her tragic end came when she was stampeded, rocks thrown at her by the crowds, and they trampled her to death after throwing rocks at her. And so her death was brutal. It probably took, a painful period of time for her to undergo that issue. And yet her legacy endured, and she became a symbol of intellectual pursuit and a beacon for women's contributions to both science and philosophy, especially of the time. Her impact on science, philosophy, and the empowerment of women cannot be overstated. She remains a fascinating figure, and she embodies the struggle for knowledge and the tragic cost of being at the forefront of change. There's so many other women who have followed in the footsteps of Hypatia and found themselves involved in their very swift demise as well. We've seen this ever since. This happened many, many, many thousands of years ago. And yet, once again, it's a lesson history shows us that we don't learn from. In particular, women are demonized by the patriarchy and or the spiritual community or the pagan community. There's no one purpose for this demonization. And losing somebody who is such a strong and powerful archetypal figure for women absolutely was devastating in history. And you could even say that in our own time period, we may not have had women pass in the same situation, but we certainly have seen women have to endure a lot at the hands of those who misunderstand them. Thank you so much for taking time with me today to listen and hear about Hypatia of Alexandria, Egypt. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you.